most brands, most brands are making ads blindly. And what I mean by that is that this is their process. They have different wording for it, and other agencies do it as well, which is they find the inspiration from Atria or Facebook or a competitor ad, and then they turn that into its own script, and then they run it. So they're using other brands as a way to test the creatives, test the avatars, and then they're just copying what everyone else is doing. So I want to take you back into the fundamentals of how do you move out of this framework of finding inspiration, writing the same thing that you've been writing in the past months and years, and then just running that. How do you move away from that? So if I had started all over again, which is I've had like 5 years of experience in DTC and creative strategy, but if I started all over again, which is 2019 when I did it, this is where I would start, and that is who, what, who, why, and when. So what does this mean? This means this is the clear version, which is product, person, desire, and moment. This moment portion here is really, really important because most brands would stop right around this area. So they know the product, they know the person, and they know the desires, and they work their way back, which is a good enough way to approach creatives. But I think a missing link here is the moment, and I'll talk a little bit more about what these moments are. How then do you do a proper deep research on your brand? I'm gonna put an asterisk here because this first step usually is for brands that are already validated, like they have 50,000, spending 50,000 over on Meta, or at least are making 7 figures. But if your brand is not validated yet, then I would skip to the second part, which I'll touch on in a bit. So the first one is deep research. But how do you do proper deep research? And I would start, again, just like with everything else, I would start with the data. So name it as a 30, 60, 90 winners and losers. If I'm writing a creative right now, what I would do is I would look at what are the things that has performed in the past 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. So what you want to do is you want to look at the top 5 of those performers for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So that's like 5, 10, 15 different instances of creatives. Then you look at the bottom 3. And obviously this has to mean that you have enough juice on the creative, which means that I just put this as an arbitrary number. So a minimum spend that I would consider as something as a dud or a loser versus a winner is that they have to have a minimum spend of $300. Anything lower than this, I would say that it just didn't have enough data to make a conclusion yet. And so we want to put a floor on what are the creatives that are, not validated, but are run enough that we know it worked or it didn't work. So in terms of platforms that I would look at based on these data, it would be Motion is my favorite one. If you guys don't know where to find this, it is the launch analysis on Motion. You can filter it to have, spend higher than $500 as an example here, but you can also filter it in terms of the time frames, which is 30, 60, 90. Then you can also do that in Atria. So there's a launch time over here in Atria. It's good to make your own custom metric or a custom reporting system in Atria to find the most recent creatives. And then you just make sure that this bar over here also matches this, because this shows how much money has been made and this shows when it was launched. And then another one is either another first party, which is Meta, obviously, and also another third party, which is Northbeam and Triple Whale, which pulls from Meta, just like the others. These two are more approachable in terms of presentation on finding the top winners and the bottom losers. But these ones, Northbeam, Triple Whale, I would just export it as a CSV and then just find those ones. With regards to Triple Whale, I'm not sure about Northbeam because we don't use that. But with Triple Whale, you can use Mobi, and you can literally just ask it, export the last creatives that has performed within this threshold in the last 30 days. So what are you going to be doing regarding this list of creatives? So you want to ask yourself what type of messaging performs the best from all of it. So watch all of it. Don't just skim through it. Kid you not, like this is going to give you a better look, a better view of your ad account than any chat GPT or any Claude analysis tool will ever have. Because at the end of the day, you're the person who's creating the ads, not the AI. Okay. So you would look at your top performing creatives and then what are the messaging that has performed the best. Take a note on that. Then also look at the people. What avatar trends do you see from the winners and also from the losers? Like what are the type of people, of avatars? Like are they, if you show males, if you show females, do they perform better than the other gender? Or is it a specific age range that performs more than the other? And then which ads have the highest click-through rate? Outbound, this shows you intent on the creative at least, but it doesn't really show you conversion rate obviously, but shows you the intention and how good it is at capturing attention and moving people from the ad to the landing page. And then you also have what trends do you see from the winners, formats, tone, offer, etc. If you have a strong offer at one creative, obviously that is a pointer on what has worked in the past. What messaging is missing? This is a pretty big one, I would say. I'm just gonna bold that. So what messaging is missing? When you list all the messaging that has been done for the top performers and the bottom losers, what are the gaps there that you can see? And so those are going to give you the hypothesis, which we'll talk on in a bit, on where to go in terms of the next creative. And then we'd also look at trends in the highest hook, highest hold rates. They used to tell a lot about whether a creative is going to perform or not in the first, I would say, 24 hours. But other than that, in my opinion, the hold rate is a much better indicator of success than the hook rate is, because you can literally just put like a TikTok video that has really, really good engagement and use that as a hook, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to convert that attention to buyer. So hook and hold, they're good to know, but I wouldn't base a creative on it. So campaign level, AOV, CPA, click-through rate. So you want to look at what's the average AOV, what's the average CPA and click-through rates on these 30, 60, 90 creatives. Okay, so that's the first step. And then after you see the 30, 60, 90 winners and losers, then you move on to the competitive intel. Competitive intel shows you what your competition is doing. And so if you don't have enough data, if you're if you're under 7 figures, then you don't have enough data to pull this from, and so you just look at your competition. So competitive intel, Meta Ad Library, these are the platforms that I like to go, which is Meta Ad Library, Foreplay, Magic Brief, Triatria, and AdSpy. There are multiple different ways that you can use these platforms, but there's a lot of tutorials in YouTube as well to look at that. But really what you want to do is you want to create a matrix like this. There's an example for a brand in telehealth. And so what we did is we plotted out just an overview of what does the competition look like for this specific brand. So in telehealth, they have the 3 top contenders here. And then you have what are the formats that they're running, how many creatives are they running in the ad library. The ad library just estimates how many creatives are running. So it's not a clear view of how many, but it shows you like the volume of what they do. So for Raven, it's around 10, for Maple it's 150, which tells you this team generally have a higher budget in terms of meta. Okay, so formats, what are they using? Are they using AI? Are they using UGC? Are they using UGC photos? Are they doing like celebrity partnerships? And what are the talents that they're using? Are they using actual customers? Or are they using creators, contractors? And then in terms of the video content, what are the trends that you're seeing from them? So for example, here, mix of produced videos, quote unquote, ugly ad in a frequent UGC video run as whitelisting. It's really important. So that could be a way that you can capitalize on the future. And then the other competitors are not doing that. And then you would also plot out the offers that they have running. So yeah, you can see which one has the strongest offer. And then you would look at their best performing creatives. When I say best performing ads, this is with a grain of salt, because you can find it with the longest performing creative or the longest running ad in Atria or in Foreplay. But nowadays it's really hard to to plot out which are the best performing ads. What I would say is that a good indicator is the engagement ratio. So if you look at the creatives from Meta or from Atria, look at the actual post of that creative, how many comments are there, how many shares, or how many likes are there. And that's usually a good indicator of a performing ad. Because if people are gravitating towards it, then it's likely that the algorithm is pushing it to more people. Learnings over time from this entire thing, what do you see? That's it. Okay, that's the competitor intel. And then you would also do a discussion intel, which is what are people talking about in terms of your industry, your niche, or your brand. If you have a smaller brand, then there's probably not a lot of people talking about it. But if you have a bigger brand that's already doing 8 figures, then there are likely a lot of conversations and tidbits that you can pull from what people are saying about you. So I like to go to Reddit answers for this. We used to go to GigaBrain, but GigaBrain was killed by Reddit answers. So you can just go to first party data through Reddit answers. So Reddit answers, Facebook communities is also a huge source of information. So don't skip on that. A lot of people, especially on Gen X and late Gen Y category, they're gravitating towards being a part of a Facebook community. And then another one is your ad comments. Never ignore your ad comments. So if you're already running the ads, you can see like how many comments are being posted on your top performers, and then just look at that. What are people saying about you? It also shows you like the objections, what people find entertaining. And if you don't have a lot of comments, you can also go to your competitors' comments. Okay. Now, the next step from here, once you know like what people are saying, is you also look at data on your own system. So what are people saying in terms of surveys and reviews? So if you don't already have a post-purchase survey setup, then I highly recommend that you do as soon as possible, because it's going to give you a huge insight on why people buy when they buy your brand. So if you don't have post-purchase surveys, Trustpilot is also a good source, and obviously your integrated review system. So it could be Kendo, Looks, or your Shopify reviews. So what we want to do from here is we're actually going to start using AI. So you want to export all these post-purchase survey, these Trustpilot and external reviews, and you want to run them in ChatGPT. And basically what you're trying to do here is you want to mine the trends on what people are saying, what are the common words that people use when describing you. So you want to extract that, and obviously you're not going to read thousands and thousands of reviews, so you need an AI to help you with that. I have a prompt here that you can use. I'll share this in the description, but yeah, you can use this prompt or you can just make your own, no biggie. But what I would say is that this is not a magic bullet, but it is a really important tool, really important framework for you before you create your first or your next batch of ads. Okay, now from here, now you've done your research on your customers, you've done your research on what people are seeing around you, and also your own data. Now it's time to map your product and the features. So this is really simple, but I love doing this exercise with my team, which is feature benefit result. So what I like to do is I actually start at the result first instead of the feature. And so I'll look at the brand that we're working with, or in your case, like your own brand. What are the results that you're promising? And then how do you bridge that into an actual feature of the product? So this is how you get something that's more quote unquote organic or authentic, because you're not just listing features. You're actually looking at the result first, and then you're connecting it to something tangible that your product gives. So yeah, don't sell the flight, sell the vacation. When people buy from you, they're not really buying the features, unless you're iPhones or unless you're selling iPhones. But still, like even Apple, they're selling the result. They're selling the feeling of success of being a creative, of feeling that minimalism, being maybe even better than everyone else. So yeah, don't sell the flight, sell the vacation, what your product actually makes people feel and what it takes them to. Okay, now from there, we're gonna go to your avatars. So remember back in the beginning when we talked about your who, this is your avatars. So when I say data-driven avatars, I mean avatars that are extracted from actual surveys. So remember in the past we talked, or just a few minutes ago, we talked about export the CSV for AI to mine trend. What you want to do is you also want to mine for the avatars that are consistent in your reviews. So once you have enough data, like you have tens and thousands of people that have already purchased your product, then that would give you an indicator to who are the actual people that are purchasing your product. So you want to extract that, and you really want to go beyond the age, the job, and the location. These are what I call demographics. It's good to start with, but it's not who you're selling to, because this is just a stat, right? Who you're selling to really contains this entire universe of pain points, desired results, objections, triggers, and brands, and their actual digital space. And this is not, this requires like an entire page for each avatar. So let's go for each one. So pain points. What are the pains that you're trying to target? What is the desired result? I would link this back into core desires. You have 6 human desires. And so what are the core desires that you're tapping into, and how does that relate to a specific result that you're providing? And then objections. What do people usually say? Usually pull this on your post-purchase surveys or your reviews in Trustpilot. What do people say when they don't want to buy from you? This is also good to pull from customer calls. So here and there, what I invite founders, especially founders, to do is that once every 30 days, I want them to actually call a customer, not their highest AOV customer, but just a random customer, and just talk to them, just ask them why they bought, why did they not buy before, what stopped them from buying, and what do they like about the brand. That's going to give you more idea than AI will, because then you're talking to a real person. You're hearing their intonation, and if you can meet with them, that's great, but the most realistic is call your customers. And then buying triggers, what pushes them really over the edge. So once they have the objections, could it be price? Could it be a specific feature that they think is not good for them? What is the trigger that pushes them over the edge? And then brands in digital space, I really, really like this, because what are the brands that they consume on a daily basis? So you would look at the digital space that they're living in. So every person has their own algorithm that's tailored to them, their own Instagram algorithm, their own YouTube and Facebook algorithm. So what I like to do to map this out is we actually create the same demographic. We create the same demographic on a social platform that we're advertising to, and then we just consume content through the perspective, through the lens of that person. And then that's going to give us this landscape of what this avatar actually lives in. Because at the end of the day, people are spending thousands and thousands of their hours in their life in the digital world. So we might as well understand it before we sell to them. And then a last thing here, more of a wild card really, and that is find your sub avatars by asking the when. When will your avatar want the solution? So I'm not talking about funnels here. I'm not talking about top, middle, or bottom of funnel. I'm really talking about what specific point in life will people regret not having your solution. It could be a specific event in their life. It could be when they encounter a specific problem. So you want to ask yourself, what are these regret points, these regret moments that people have? And once you have that, that's going to lead you to your sub avatar. Yeah, that's all I can say about it. It's an amazing breakthrough that we've been trying to do for creative diversity. So if you've been stuck with trying to diversify your creatives and you think that you only have 3 avatars, then this is a way for you to diversify the creatives, be more specific, which is finding the moments. So what are these actual moments that people will regret when that they haven't purchased your product? And that goes from, looking at your customer surveys and also talking to your actual customers. And the last step I would say is feeding it back to the AI. So you want to export all of this entire project, and you want to put it into your, if you use Claude, put it in your Claude project, put it in your GPT. Really, you want to build the files or the memory for it, for your AI, so it already knows who you're trying to target and what are the qualities that you're looking for. And you want to update this every 30 days because your avatar changes, people change, and desires change throughout the year. There's seasonality, and so you want to account for that too. We like to do it every 30 days, but if it's time consuming, then do it every 60, maximum every quarter. The reason is that you always want to refresh who you're talking to before you start writing the ad. So that goes back into selling to the product, which is, doing the mapping, selling to the person that your avatar or you targeting, and then the desire, what do they actually want in life and when do they want it? That's it.